Please like this video. It will really help this story reach as many people as possible. Thank you so much for your support. I came home on a Tuesday, still in my work boots, and Jenna didn't even glance up from the couch. No hello, no smile. Just her thumb scrolling and her face lit blue by her phone. I leaned down to hug her. She slid out from under my hands like I was a coat she didn't plan to wear and walked past me toward the bedroom. Long day. I tried. She tossed over her shoulder. I'm exhausted. And shut the door. If I'd known how far that door would travel between us, I would have treated it like a fire alarm instead of a draft. I stood there with takeout and a dumb look, listening to the quiet. We used to meet in the kitchen, bump hips, argue about spice, laugh about the neighbor's lawn flamingos. That night, nothing. Just the hum of the fridge and a text from my foreman asking about a permit. I ate alone at the counter. The food was warm, the house wasn't. The next morning I set coffee on her nightstand. She was awake, scrolling again. Morning, I said. Can you not? She told me, like the coffee was offensive. Not what? Be nice. I need space. Please. From caffeine or from me? Silence. She pulled the blanket up, eyes on the phone. I work in commercial HVAC. My job is to make air move where it's supposed to. With Jenna, the air had stopped moving. I told myself it was a bad week. Then it turned into a bad pattern. At dinner 2 nights later, I tried again. You good? I'm fine. You're not talking to me. I'm tired. Don't make it a thing. I set the fork down. We're married. Not making it a thing turns it into a thing. See? You always escalate. I asked a question. You asked 5, she said, and stabbed at her salad. I wasn't going to beg. I wasn't going to pout. I cleaned the kitchen, took out the trash, and went through emails. She disappeared into the spare room with her phone. Our bed felt rented when I finally got in. 2 more days of cool silence. Then snide. She brought up an old story about how I had once mixed up dates for her cousin's baby shower. Like that proved a point. So you're forgetful, she said brightly. At least you're consistent. I let a beat pass. You done auditioning that line in the mirror? She smirked. Touchy. Just bored. Small hit, small consequence. I took my tools out of the hall closet the next morning and moved them to the garage. Little shift of territory. My initiative. I stopped waiting up. I set my alarm earlier. I started lifting at the gym again. 6 a.m., no check-in texts. I told the guys at work I'd take the Saturday call-outs. Time I'd been saving for us was now mine. When you pull back your time, people notice. Jenna noticed. Are you mad? She asked Sunday morning as I tightened a bike rack I'd ordered and hadn't mentioned. I'm busy. With what? Things that don't argue with me for being present. She blinked. Wow. You wanted space? I reminded her. I'm just listening. She didn't like that answer. The cold turned into sarcasm. She started doing bits. If I asked her about plans, she'd mimic me. Oh, do we need to sync calendars, Mark? She'd say, vertical quotes in the air. So serious. Yup, I replied. Adult life. Highly recommended. At a neighbor's cookout, she took a bigger swing. I was at the grill with Pete, the accountant with too many socks, and Jenna floated in, bright and loud, a beer in one hand. Ask Mark about his spreadsheet, she told Brooke from down the street. He makes one for groceries. He's very efficient. Pete laughed. Do you color code eggs? I wiped my hands and smiled. Only when I'm feeding 5 adults who call I need space in the middle of the week. Keeps the house from starving. Brooke coughed a laugh she tried to hide. Jenna's eyes narrowed, but she kept the show running. Don't mind him. He's in a mood. Only a 2-beer mood, I said, and turned the chicken. Plenty of runway. Later, in the yard lights, she cornered me by the garden hose. Why would you say that? Because it's true. You embarrassed me. You were using me as a prop. That's not fair. Neither is starting a bit I didn't audition for. She folded her arms. If you can't take a joke, that's on you. If you can't show respect, that's on you. We walked home in a silence that wasn't quiet. I slept in the spare room. That was my second initiative. No big speech. No door slam. Just a different pillow. The next week, I suggested counseling. Calm, straightforward. Hard pass, she said. You sure? It's not that serious. Then what is it? She puffed her cheeks. I said I'm tired. You're tired of me, I said. Or tired of telling me you're tired? She looked at the window. You're not listening. I'm listening to the words you won't say. That landed somewhere I couldn't see. She went back to her phone. I started paying attention to the phone. How she tilted it away. How she walked into the backyard to take calls. Pacing by the maple tree we planted last fall. How silence after her notifications wasn't peace, it was hiding. Then small clues began stacking. A new perfume I hadn't bought. A cash withdrawal she couldn't explain plainly. Just stuff, she said. What stuff? Girl stuff. Which girl? Mark. The first soft turn came after I announced a new rule. It was a Tuesday. I set my keys down and told her, I'm not doing Thursday happy hour with your crew anymore. Last time felt like a roast. If we go out, it's dinners with couples who don't use each other for punchlines. If that's too boring, I'm a boring man. She blinked. You're being dramatic. I'm being clear. She rolled the clarity around, decided she didn't like it, then later in the night came to the spare room and knocked. Can I come in? I pushed the door open. She sat on the edge of the bed, no phone for once. I'm sorry, she said. I've been snappy. Work is heavy. I took it out on you. Okay. And I know I've been closed. Yeah. She took my hand. I miss us. I miss the part where we were on the same team. I can do better. You can do different, I replied. She nodded. A light version of change. The next 2 days she made dinner, asked about my day, climbed back into our bed, and, for a while, warmth returned. It looked like a course correction, not a performance. I didn't throw confetti. I just watched. 2 nights later, when I came out from the shower, she was at the dresser, sliding a small box into a drawer. She shut it quickly, like the drawer was stage curtain. What's that? I asked. Nothing. Looks specific. A bracelet. Old one, she said and moved past me to the bathroom. The box was new. The paper band still crisp. I didn't open the drawer after she left. Not because I was noble. Because I wanted leverage, not a scene. Knowing changes how you move. Guessing just burns you out. The follow-through on her apology lasted a week. Then the cold crept back. Her phone was back in her palm like a passport. Notifications at odd hours. I tested a small boundary. Pass me your phone, I said once, casual, when her screen lit up at midnight. Why? Because mine died and I need to text Cal about a part. Use the iPad. iPad's in the truck. Then get the iPad from the truck. Or, I said, you could hand me the phone and the world keeps spinning. She held it tighter. Don't make this weird. It got weird on its own. The next day, I told payroll to route my overtime to my separate account. I canceled a weekend trip we'd been planning with her friends and booked a solo fishing day at a lake an hour out. When she asked why, I said, I don't buy tickets to shows where I'm the punchline. She scoffed. You think you're tough. No, I think I'm awake. A week later, an invite showed up on our kitchen chalkboard. Jenna's birthday, Saturday, 7 p.m. She had drawn balloons, a star, 2 names underlined. Guess I knew. Brooke, Pete, and one I didn't recognize for a beat because my mind didn't go there. Tyler. Let me pause the story for just a second. If you're still listening, please hit the like button on this video. It really helps YouTube show this story to more people. Thank you so much for the support. Now let's get back to the story. I'd heard of him. The ex-husband, part of her old life, kept in the attic of funny stories you tell your new partner to feel connected. He was chaotic and witty and free in her old version. He was a long chapter, done, when we got married. That man was now underlined on my kitchen board with a small star next to his name. I pointed. That a typo? She rinsed a glass. Nope. You're inviting him. It's a party, Mark. My history doesn't disappear. It doesn't have to appear in my house either. Relax. Pass. He's married, she said, as if that was a vaccine. Interesting fact, not a reason. He's friends with my friends. He's friends with your phone too? She stiffened. Don't start. This is me ending it before it starts. You don't get to control my guest list. I get to control my presence. You're really going to skip my birthday? If that's the condition, yes. She laughed. You'll come around. Or, I said, I'll keep the promise to myself. I didn't yell. I didn't plead. I made calls. 2 days before the party, I told our buddy Pete we'd reschedule helping him move the shed. I told my brother I might need his truck Saturday late, just in case I wanted to be somewhere else. Not for drama, logistics. If your gut is tapping, check your exits. The day of the party, I came home with flowers and a card. I set them on the table. She was already in the living room with Brooke, doing final touches. Music low, candles too many. Then the door opened. People trickled in, laughs, bottles, that fake, we should do this more tone. I moved through it like inventory. I shook hands. I smiled. I kept my ear up. Then the door opened again, and there he was. Tyler. Easy grin, a little too at home, a bottle in his hand like he owned the urge. Mark, Jenna said, overly bright. This is Tyler. We shook hands. His grip was firm, his eyes scanning the room behind me like there was a second camera. Big fan, he joked. I've heard so much. Likewise, I replied. You look taller on speakerphone. He tilted his head. Nice. Brooke's eyebrows went up. Jenna touched my arm lightly, like a warning and a plea. Be nice, she whispered. Always, I said. We moved around each other the way old and new furniture do in a small room. He asked about my work. He already knew enough details he shouldn't. I asked about his wife. She's good, he said. Lauren's got Pilates and opinions. Maybe she has opinions about you being here, I said. In your old house. He smiled without teeth. We're all adults. Some of us are, I agreed. Jenna accidentally bumped my hip when she passed. Too hard for an accident. Don't be weird, she hissed. Then don't set weird, I told her, and took my beer to the porch. I stayed 30 minutes. I didn't make a scene. I watched. I tracked positions like I do ductwork. Jenna and Tyler laughed in the kitchen too long. They disappeared outside alone for a catch-up that kept catching and catching. People started doing that nervous social glance. Like, are we watching a reunion or a car crash? I slipped inside, put my card back in my pocket, walked to the entryway, and took my keys from the bowl. Jenna saw me. She hustled over. Where are you going? She asked. Away. You're leaving my birthday? Correct. Can you not do this? You already did this. You're overreacting. You're underestimating. She stepped closer. If you walk out, you'll make it worse. Last chance, I told her. Do you want me to say in front of your friends why this is a choice? She stared at me, then shifted gears with a smile that was for the room. He's got work early, she announced, turning to Brooke, not me. He's a responsible guy. I opened the door. I'm a man with a line, I said, and I let the door close the conversation. I drove to my brother Dave's place, sat on his tailgate, and watched a minor league game stream on his tiny TV while he changed the oil in his old sedan. You look like somebody stepped on your sundae, Dave said. I left a party, I replied. Yours? Hers? He was there. The guy? Yup. And I made a note. Gonna explode? Gonna measure. He nodded. Call if you need a witness. On the way home, I ran 2 errands. I bought a second lockbox for documents and a cheap overnight bag. I put both in the garage. I slept in the spare room and turned off my phone. The next morning, Jenna handed me a coffee and kissed my cheek like the last 12 hours had been a sitcom episode with a tidy lesson. About last night, she started. I was rude. I got carried away with old stories. It won't happen again. You need me to believe that, I said. I want you to believe that. What are you giving up for it? She hesitated. Nothing. I just won't linger. That's not how trust works, I said. I'll make it easy. You and Tyler don't meet again. Not for coffee, not for errands, not for closure. If he's at an event, I'm not. If I'm at an event, he's not. That's controlling. That's a boundary. She weighed the word like it was a rock. Fine, she said finally. If that's what it takes. It takes respect, I replied. This is just the path to it. For 2 weeks, she flipped the script. She cooked. She slid her hand into mine when we watched dumb crime shows. She deleted some names from a group chat in front of me, like a stage magician proving there's nothing up the sleeve. We went out to dinner with Pete and his wife, and she bragged about my promotion I hadn't even told her the title for. She was warm, generous, attentive. It felt like the house had air again. I let myself breathe. I didn't relax my guard. I just stopped clenching it. Then the pivot. It always comes after you breathe. I stayed late on a Friday to close out a job. I texted Jenna at 6, on my way in an hour. No response. At 8, running late. Grab food. No response. At 9:30, I pulled into our driveway, and the house was dark. I walked through the rooms, hung my jacket, listened. Nothing. I looked at the counter for a note. Nothing. I texted, "Where are you?" 2 hours later, at 11:47, My phone pinged. Needed to talk to Tyler. Don't worry. I felt my face settle, not twist. Not shock. Recognition. The line had been crossed, calmly, as if that made it professional. I stood there and let the quiet pass through. Then I moved. I knew where he lived. She used to point at that exit on the freeway and say, "That's where the old chapter was." I also knew his wife's name from a holiday card we'd accidentally gotten in our mailbox one year, and from Jenna's stories when we were still telling true stories. I got in my truck and drove. Lauren answered the door in a sweatshirt, hair in a tired knot, the look of someone who thought the vacuum was the night's big event. "Can I help you?" she asked. "I'm Mark," I said. "Jenna's husband. We need 5 minutes." Her face shifted from polite to alert. "Is something wrong?" "Not with me. With Patterns." She let me in. We sat at their kitchen island, the exact same granite we considered once. I put my phone down, opened the message thread, and slid it over. "My wife just told me she needed to talk to your husband," I said. "It's not the first time. It's the first time I'm done pretending I don't know." Lauren breathed in through her nose like she needed air to do math. She scrolled. She asked a few precise questions. She put the phone down. "Thank you," she said. "I didn't know." I figured. "What are you going to do?" "Clean my house." We didn't trade vows or vengeance. We didn't do the dramatic hug. She walked me to the door and said, "I'll handle my side. I'll handle mine." On the drive home, the radio was just noise. I parked, walked inside, and went straight to our closet. I pulled out Jenna's big suitcase, the one she used for those girls' trips that were all matching hats and captions. I opened drawers. I folded, fast and plain. Clothes, toiletries, chargers. The overnight bag I bought went on top with the essentials. I didn't throw. I didn't rip. I sorted and zipped. My phone buzzed. "What did you do?" Jenna wrote. I spoke with Lauren. I typed back, "Don't worry." The phone lit up with her name. I let it go to voicemail. Then again and again. I kept packing. I bagged her extra shoes in grocery sacks and lined them up by the door. I took the framed photos of us off the hallway table and put them face down in a box. I left our wedding album on the shelf. Not a weapon. A record. 30 minutes later, the door burst open, keys fumbling, her steps fast. She came in hot. "Are you insane?" she shouted from the hallway. "What is wrong with you?" I didn't answer. I folded a sweater and set it in the suitcase. "Did you seriously go to their house? Are you out of your mind?" I closed the suitcase. "I'm done being polite about being disrespected." She threw her hands up. "We didn't do anything. You did enough. You're making a mess for no reason. You broke a deal for your convenience." She walked into the room and saw the suitcase. She barked a laugh. "What, you're leaving? Again? You think that's going to make me chase you?" I stood up and rolled the suitcase to her. "You're mistaken," I said. "This time, you're leaving." Her face shifted through 3 weather systems. She reached for indignation first. "You don't get to tell me." "I do," I cut in. "In this house, yes. This is my house too. You're a guest who forgot your manners. You're cruel." "I'm clear." "You can't throw me out," she tried. "You can't." "I'm not throwing," I said. "I'm asking you to go. Now. Take what you need for the week. I'll box the rest. We'll coordinate pickup. You chose your priority. I'm choosing mine." She stared at me, jaw tight. Then she pivoted to pleading. "Mark, please." It was a conversation. It was closure. You already had closure. You had a new home. It meant nothing. It cost something. "It won't happen again," she said quickly, stepping closer, softer now. "I swear. He's just part of my past. I don't feel anything. Please. Please don't do this. We can fix it. We had a deal. You sold it at a discount." She tried sweetness. She put her hands on my chest, looked up with the face she used when she wanted me to take out the trash and pretend it was a date. "Don't end us over a text. This isn't over a text. It's over a pattern." Then she went dark again. "You tell Lauren, and now you think you're some hero? You just wrecked their family." I told the truth to the person who deserved it. "You're pathetic." "You're done," I replied. We stood quiet. The house felt like a stage after the audience leaves. Empty, everything still lit. She blinked first. "I can't believe you're doing this," she said, finally hoarse. "You believed I'd never do this," I corrected. "Where am I supposed to go?" "Not my problem to solve," I said evenly. "Call Brooke. Call whoever you call at midnight. You'll regret this," she hissed, last card. I rolled the suitcase to the door and held it. I'm going to sleep very well, I said. Not here. In the spare room. You can be gone by morning. She didn't move. We stared each other down. Then she grabbed the handle, yanked the suitcase, and stormed out. The door slammed. The street got quiet again. I leaned on the door for a moment, not for drama, for balance, then walked to the kitchen and poured water. Clean, cold, earned. At 8 the next morning, I was at the county office filling out paperwork. No shouting, no gossip, just boxes checked. I sent her a short text. Paperwork filed today. She called. I let it ring out. The next month was a mix of tactics. She tried everything. Apology voicemails at 2 a.m., long messages about our history, short accusations about my character, showing up outside my job at lunch with a bag of my favorite sandwich like the right condiment could erase math. She sent me a photo of a memory book she made from ticket stubs and receipts, laid out on a table, as if evidence of time was proof of respect. I didn't answer the calls. I didn't read the long messages past the first line. When she came to my work site, I met her at the curb and kept my hands in my pockets. "Can we talk?" she asked. I shook my head. We talked. Then you acted. Then I acted. You're throwing away. I'm keeping my self-respect. People make mistakes. People make choices. A coworker, Nina, sharp, funny, no patience for nonsense, walked by with a ladder and paused long enough to give me a look. "You good?" she asked. "I'm done," I said. "Attaboy," she replied and kept moving. I boxed Jenna's books, labeled every carton, and stacked them in the garage like a neat goodbye. When Brooke came with her hatchback to pick up the first load, she stood in the doorway and tried to freeze me with a glare. "She's a mess," Brooke said. "I'm not a janitor. You're cold. I'm precise." "You didn't have to tell Lauren," she tried. "I had to be a neighbor to someone I didn't know I had a duty to," I answered. "You can judge me for that all you want." She muttered something about men and left. Good. Fewer visitors. One afternoon, Jenna texted, "He won't even look at me now. Are you happy?" I typed, "I'm at peace." Then I put my phone face down and changed the oil in my truck, wiped my hands on an old shirt, and felt quieter than I had in a year. We signed papers in a small office with chairs that squeaked. There were no cinematic speeches. She wore neutral clothes and a look that said she'd aged 3 years in 3 weeks. She tried one last soft pitch on the sidewalk. "We could try again," she whispered. "New place. New start. I'll block him everywhere. I mean it." "You taught me who you are when the lights are low," I said. "I'm not unlearning that." Her eyes flashed. "You're making a mistake." "I don't do repeats," I said, and walked to my truck. That's the story I tell my friends at the bar when they ask how I'm doing, and I say, "Better," without irony. I didn't scorch the earth. I didn't chase rumors. I didn't give speeches to an audience that already booed. I moved my time, my money, my space. I called one person who deserved the truth. I closed the door once. After, I bought a small house 10 minutes from the job yard. Single story, easy yard, room for a smoker and a workbench. I replaced the dead shrubs with a line of low cedars. I put a heavy bag in the garage and get 10 minutes on it most mornings before coffee. I paid off my truck early. I took a weekend in the mountains with Dave and his kids where the biggest problem was teaching his youngest to unhook a fish gently. I started seeing someone, Erin. She's all forward momentum and clean lines. She doesn't perform for a crowd. If she has a hard day, she says, "Today was lousy," and then asks how my ductwork saga is going with a grin that says she actually wants to know. We make plans and show up for them. No stage cues. No old trophies on the guest list. As for Jenna, I hear things, because people talk. Tyler's chaotic wit turned into a schedule that didn't include her. The friend group that used to clap for her bits got quieter when they realized they weren't just jokes, they were tests. Lauren, from what I hear, moved out on her own timetable and started running a Saturday morning class at the rec center, longer stride, calmer face. These are pieces of a puzzle that isn't mine anymore. Sometimes I see Jenna's car in traffic, recognize the dent on the rear bumper, feel that old tug that says, "You used to know that person." Then I roll down the window, feel the actual air, and enjoy the clean reality of not being on a stage. If you want a moral, I don't have a pretty one. I have a practical one. When someone shows you they prefer secret rooms to your shared house, don't argue with the blueprint. Move your walls, then move on. And when you leave, don't slam every door. Just the one that matters. The last words I said to her were the right ones for me. She was standing in our empty living room, the rug rolled up, the echo weird, the window light exposing things you don't see when life is full. She said, "We could still fix this," and I handed her the last box, met her eyes, and told her, "We don't fix what we don't break. You broke respect. I'm not the repairman for that." She didn't argue. She just left. And for the first time in a year, the air moved. Our story has come to an end. If you've made it this far, how about subscribing to our channel? It helps us immensely. I've selected 2 other videos for you that I'm sure you'll enjoy. Feel free to click on them. I'll be waiting for you in the next story. See you soon.